Today we are going to tackle my kitchen countertops and see if I can successfully DIY tiling them myself, which is an incredibly scary project to face. And if I'm being truly honest with you, I'm actually filming this about 3 weeks after we tried to start the project, and I'm so much has happened, and you will see a lot of it in this video, but we've hit a lot of roadblocks, and there are a lot of things that I kind of tried to do that didn't work, and I'm going to share them all with you so that you can hopefully either figure out how to do it better than me or not make the mistakes that I've made. A big reason why I'm choosing this project as kind of my first real home project to share with all of you is because while we were testing our water for lead and nitrates, and thankfully our water is completely clean of any and all things, we found out that there's a spot in our countertop that is leaching lead. The old owners were prepping a lot of their food directly on the countertop in this one area, and you could see where the knife was constantly cutting the countertop, and so there's lead leaching out of it. And it's not the entire countertop. After we tested that spot, I tested several other areas, and the rest of the countertop is still okay. But eventually, once it gets beaten up and scratched up enough, it's gonna leak lead too. So if I'm honest, that pushed me off the deep end of trying to figure out what I'm even doing for a while. I couldn't do any of the normal planning that I would do for a project. I am still not sure what kind of wallpaper I want to put in there. I know I need to paint the cabinets. It was this big, huge project in my head, and I had to either do the whole thing or do none of it. And then I started spiraling because the tile that I wanted wasn't going to work out, it was going to be too expensive. And then the tile that I ended up on I didn't really like, and then just a lot of things. You'll find out most of it in this video, but suffice it to say, I've realized I can just tile the countertops and not tackle the rest of the kitchen until I need to later down the road. We're going to embark on this journey together and see how good my tiling my tiling skills are. They might be awful. I might mess up everything. We'll find out together. Before we actually jump into the project, I do want to have a project plan. Now, obviously I'm not doing the entire kitchen right away, but I still want to have a mood board so that whenever I do have time and the energy to do the rest of the kitchen, I will have the board ready. I'm going to mainly focus it on the countertops, so the to-do list will be on the countertops, and then later on when we're finished I can do a cost breakdown. So let's get into Milano and make a plan, because I have been feeling so chaotic. I mean, I'm always chaotic, but it's felt extra crazy because I haven't had internet, haven't had a plan, didn't plan to do this project right now, didn't have a mood board. Let's make a project plan so that I can actually organize my brain. I have been saving Pinterest images ever since we knew we were for sure going to get our house, and this pink and green strawberry inspired shelf plus this red and green inspired strawberry shelf have been my top 2 inspiration photos for what I want to do with my kitchen, and also in tandem the dining room, which we'll talk about in a future video, but I think the dining area that we have now might become a breakfast nook, and then we have another room in the house that can become the formal dining room. It's going to be a project far down the road, but for now I wanted to pull some colors from these 2 images because I really love the color schemes. I love the green cabinetry, I love all of the pink accents, and as you all know me so well, I really love the strawberries. I also pulled in some green cabinetry. While I don't know if I'm going to go the exact same green that I did in my last house, I still want green cabinets. I think the moment that I painted my last kitchen green was the moment I realized how much I really love green cabinets. So these are the staple colors of my kitchen. Then I decided to pull a bunch of tile inspiration, both for the backsplash and for the countertop itself. And I was really inspired by these vintage floral penny round tile countertops. So that is what I am going for. I love the penny rounds. I don't know how difficult it will be, but that is what I want to do. I saved these other tiles as backsplash inspiration and made a little to-do list of all of the things that we need to buy and do for the kitchen. That is basically it. It's a simple board, but I think it's really effective and it gets the point across. So that's the plan. I really want it to be a massively strawberry inspired kitchen, obviously. My old kitchen was strawberry inspired, but I don't think I went hard enough. So it is my goal to eventually have the most strawberry kitchen. But for now we're just doing countertops, so let's go make some tile decisions. There is a whole day missing where I originally went to pick out tiles and had decided on square tiles for the countertop, and then completely spiraled, decided I didn't like it at all, and decided to go back to Menards and take a lot longer making my decisions. Originally I thought I was going to go with maybe some black and white tiles because that seemed the easiest and because they don't sell colored penny rounds in the store, but I just could not resist. I could not resist the pull of the penny rounds, so as you will see, that is what I chose. Okay. I am feeling really self-conscious because I'm talking in the store, but my options are the hexagonal tiles, which are the most expensive, and I would be creating a flower pattern out of the black ones, but it would be about $120 to cover the countertops, and then we would have to seal them with a gloss finish because they are matte. So probably around $150, a little more, because I also still have to get the edge tiles. I did find this green option that I really like for a possible trim piece. My second option is hexagonal with diamonds in between. Again, I would not be putting them on the way that they are in the box. And my third option is to get penny rounds and paint some of them in the colors that I want so that I can create a custom countertop. So, as you can probably guess, I did decide to get penny rounds, and because I cannot find colored rounds in the store and I would have to order them, it might take a couple of weeks and I'm not sure how much it would cost, I've decided to try to do my own colored tiles. I did a ton of research on how to do this properly. You need to sand your tiles, you need to prime them, you paint them, and then you cover them with an epoxy based clear coat. And I did tons of research on how to do it, but I'm still not 100% sure whether it will really work. We're going to cross our fingers and hope for the best.
Getting into the countertop design was a whole process on its own because I wanted to do some white bullnose trim and then the green trim tiles and then the penny rounds. I decided that I would set out the tiles on the countertop and see how everything was going to lay and fit, and then design whatever I decided to put into the penny rounds before I did any other work. This part was really fun and pretty satisfying to do, although I did a lot of piecework, I did a lot of laying out, and it took me a while to really figure out what I wanted and what the layout was going to be, but it was really, really fun work. In the future, I plan to use these green tiles as part of the backsplash too, to tie the backsplash into the countertop. So I laid those out as well, just so I could kind of see how it would all look all together. When it was time to start designing the top of the counter, I had my husband mark out the centers of both of the countertops. For some reason, this part was really breaking my brain, and I just could not figure out where to start. I wanted to have 2 rows of flowers that met in the middle of the corner, but figuring out how to do that when the countertops are 2 different widths was just a little bit confusing to me, and so he helped me mark out the center of each countertop so I could figure out where the flowers needed to start, which would be in the center of the corner. I ended up using highlighters and washable markers for this so that if I made a mistake or I didn't like the design, I could just wipe it off with a little bit of water and there was no harm done. Then it was time to design the prep counter, which is a little bit lower than the rest of the countertops, and I knew immediately that I wanted to do a strawberry design, but I wasn't 100% sure how big it would be, if it would be a repeating pattern, or if I would have a central strawberry. As you can see, I decided to have a central strawberry, and by the end of this video, the design that I'm drawing out here will be very, very different, but I was a little afraid to have too much in the design, so at first I tried to start out with something pretty simple. And then I decided to go back to all of the other design that I had put on the other countertop and change the colors to be a little bit closer to what I was actually doing. I had originally used an orange marker instead of pink for the flowers, and while this is a completely unimportant and unnecessary step, it did really help me visualize exactly what I was designing and whether I really wanted it to look that way. I'm glad I did this, but it was not that necessary, and if you are going to do something similar, you really don't have to have color accurate colors to mark out your tiles that you want to cut out for colored tiles. It was just helpful for me as someone who is very visual.
I just wanna go out and walk with you. Baby, you know I just like to talk with you.
And then it was time to make sure that all of my measurements were correct and all of my layout was perfect so that I could then cut out all of the tile design work that I had just done. Those tiles will be taken out to the garage to be spray painted after I sand them. This process was not actually as time consuming as I expected it to be. Taking out all of the tiles that needed to be painted was pretty straightforward, and because the penny round sheets are connected, it meant that I could cut out the entire chunk and have the whole thing just pull right out of there.
I just wanna see the same things you can see, understand the meaning on a new degree. Maybe that could happen when you're next to me. I just wanna see the same things you can see.
For the sanding, I used a 60 or 80 grit sandpaper, I don't remember, and I tried my absolute best to sand out all the way to the edges where it is rounded. Then I separated all of the tiles out by which color they needed to be painted and set about spray painting them. For this, I used a high bonding primer and then some regular spray paint, which again is not the best choice, but it is what I could find, and I was really hoping I could do the prep work well enough that it would work.
Or an hour or two. Baby, you know I just like to talk with you. I just wanna go out on a walk with you. Baby, you know I just like.
Then my husband took them down to our basement so that he could coat them in epoxy, since I have never worked with epoxy before and I don't know how that works. And he spent a lot of time meticulously covering them and then getting rid of the bubbles with a blowtorch. But unfortunately, in the end, this DIY did not work, and I realized I was going to have to shift gears.
Okay, so the thing has happened that I suspected could probably happen and everybody was probably expecting to happen, and that doing my own color for the tiles is not going to work. After we did our epoxy coat, we noticed that a couple of the colors were chipping off around the edges, and I knew this was a possibility, but I was also hopeful that I was doing enough work to make it work. But the unfortunate reality is just that it's very, very hard to sand around the rounded edges of the penny rounds to make them adhesive enough for the color to stick, especially because I wasn't using tile specific paint. I'm sure if I could have found some tile paint that was the colors that I wanted, which I couldn't find, but if I had, maybe it would have worked, but it didn't. And so after we put all the epoxy on those tiles, I ended up going online and finding a website called Tile Club and ordering one sheet of each penny round. If I'm being really, really honest with all of you, I probably should have looked into this when I very first made this decision to do penny rounds and to do colored penny rounds, but because the bullnose tiles in a different color would have been massively expensive to buy, I didn't even think about whether it would be cheaper to just buy the penny round colors I needed versus buying all of the materials to try to do it myself. It isn't like some wild, crazy price difference. It cost me about $67 for all of the things I bought to do my own penny round colors, and it was $45 to ship, to buy and ship all of the penny round colors I needed. So I got all of the colors and they are here, and I'm about to go do the countertop. The red is brighter than the color that I had chosen. I wanted to do a little color comparison. You see it's just like a little brighter. I only needed this little sheet for yellow because it's only in the middle of some of the flowers. I don't have the color in here. I cannot show you a comparison. I'm pretty sure I threw away the yellow ones because I knew I just wasn't going to use them and I was frustrated. The pink and the green are the two colors that I'm just going to use because I have them and they will be fine, but they are not necessarily they're not what I was hoping for. The pink that I ended up buying is, I don't know if you'll be able to see that color comparison so far away. It's very close. I don't even know if it's gonna register on camera, but it is more dusty in the undertone than the pink that I chose. The green is the color that I am the least happy with. I had been able to color match a green really, really well to these tiles that I'm going to use. And this one is the one that I bought. It is, again, it's fine. I don't hate it. But in comparison to the trim tiles that I'll be using, I don't know if it shows up on camera, but in person, this is just a little more green, like dusty green toned, and this is a little more blue toned. I think they will go well together. They're in the kind of same green color family. It is just me and my very, very choosy color matching that wishes I could have found something that was a little bit more. It's a minute color difference, and it's probably not gonna be that big of a deal to anybody but me. But now that I have the tiles, I need to go and get this done. I am crossing my fingers that it's going to be as easy as I think it's going to be. But we'll find out together.
Because I am generally a bit chaotic and not very good with precision, I did have my husband do the countertop edges, and he had already trimmed the board that the old countertop was on so that the countertop would be flush with the cabinets underneath it. We really didn't want a lip of tile out over our cabinet doors, and also it would have made the dishwasher almost inaccessible, so we decided to trim the old countertops to be flush with the cabinets, and then he set about doing the countertop edges so that they would be as precise as possible. Initially, we thought we would use the spacers, but after doing one countertop, realized that they really weren't as useful for this type of project. Then it was my turn to come in and start with the countertops. Even though I had already planned out the layout of the countertops, because my husband and I decided to trim the countertop edges, this did mean that I would still have to do a little bit of trimming. And so I wanted to re-lay out everything that I had to ensure that it was all going to fit the way that I wanted it to. I think it is also really useful to lay out what you're going to do before you do it, because if you are like me, you might be panicking about how quickly the mortar is going to set, and you might feel as though you don't have much time. One thing that my dad said in his advice to me about tiling was to do small sections, because he had an instance way back in the day when he was trying to tile a kitchen and got distracted in the middle of the job, and when he came back his mortar had set and he had to chip it all off. However, I do think that he was gone for quite a few hours in between, I would say that the mortar really gives you a good half an hour to get all of your tile pressed into it before it really starts to set and become unmanageable. So I was able to do fairly large chunks of tile without fear that everything was going to dry. While this was a fairly easy project, it was also very, very messy, as you can see, and it is pretty forgiving. I would say you have a little while to move tiles around before you have to just let them sit, which is great for me as there were a few things that I would lay in and then realize that I hadn't spaced it correctly and I needed to move the tiles around. Once I had the sheets of white penny rounds down, it was time to put in the colored tiles. This was the most exciting part for me, and then my camera died. Laying down the edges was one of the most satisfying parts of this whole project. I decided to add pink and red rounds in between the green tiles to fill the space and also as a design element, and I love the way that it turned out. I'm gonna be honest, this is probably my favorite project that I've ever done. Really, the biggest thing was learning to prepare all of my tiles before I tried to lay them all in, especially the color tiles. For this entire countertop, I pretty much did not prepare my colored tiles. I thought that I could cut them out fairly quickly and it would be just fun and easy, but it turned out to be a little bit stressful. I was really afraid my mortar was going to set too quickly, but in the end, it really was fine. I was able to lay everything in very easily, and all told, I think that it worked out great. The only issue I had with these colored tiles was that the sample size of the yellow tile came very securely glued down to a cardboard piece, and getting the paper and the cardboard off of the back of it proved to be pretty difficult. I kind of wish that I had just ordered a full sheet, which are attached to a mesh instead. Much easier to remove. That did mean that the yellow tiles are just ever so slightly taller than the rest of the tiles, but in the end it doesn't matter too much once the grout is in there. I have seen a lot of concerns online that tile countertops are not very sanitary, or they look really gross, or the grout attracts a lot of dirt, and I cannot stress enough how important it is to properly seal your grout when you're done tiling. This is the biggest issue that I have seen with anyone who has had a tile countertop, is that they have not properly sealed the grout, and so therefore then your grout is rough, it attracts dirt, it attracts grossness. Sealing them will solve that problem. The other issue I've seen people talk about is that it is harder to prep food on the countertops, whether it's because they cut their food directly on their countertops or because it's harder to roll pastry dough out on a bumpy surface. And while these are fairly valid concerns, I have never actually cut my food directly on my countertop, and I don't plan to do that anytime soon. I have a plethora of very lovely cutting boards that I use, and in the future, I plan to just get a pastry mat to lay out on my countertop to roll dough out onto. This will help to keep the countertops cleaner, and it will also mean that it is just easier in the long run to roll out my dough. I've also thought about getting a butcher block rolling island simply because we don't have a lot of countertops and they will be taken up with other appliances that we want to keep on the counters, and so having a rolling butcher block island would be really, really useful just for counter space and food prep and whatever else we need it for. If you end up tiling your countertops, the one thing that I would suggest that I did not do is to have a bigger mortar trowel. I grabbed this one because it was just available and it was there, and I didn't think about the fact that my countertops are a lot bigger than this, and so I also really needed some kind of plastic putty knife. I think that would have been really useful to spread the mortar and then later to also spread the grout. Getting underneath the edge with my mortar was such a pain in the butt of trying to get under this windowsill. And this is the section where you can see it is actually a very user-friendly way to do your countertops, because I had to pull this entire thing off so that I could correct my mistake of having put my tiles too far over, needing to remove one row and then redoing it all. And it didn't dry. It was not set. It was easy to remove and reset everything. Messy, but in the end, we got it done. Now, I did not film how many iterations my strawberry countertop went through. I redesigned this so many times, and a lot of it was really minute changes, like just moving the greenery around. But I originally had a very simple design that I thought I was going to do. I didn't want to fill up the space with a ton of design. I was really afraid to go too hard and too much. And then I decided I really wanted more. So I added more design, and I'm so happy that I did. And then I also pulled out completely fresh sheets of penny rounds because I had already cut out the old design in the old penny rounds, and then it was just a lot of work to refill the spaces that would be empty once I moved the design. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but I ended up having to recut all of the design into a new sheet of penny rounds. I'm so happy with the way that this turned out. I cannot wait to show you the reveal. This is by far my favorite countertop, and it almost makes me wonder whether I could have done more strawberry themed things on the other countertops. But I am also really happy with the other countertop. So I really like having one countertop that is just a little bit different from everything else. But that is basically it. The last step that I had to do was grout everything, and then we will be ready for the reveal.
we're done. It's done, it's finished, it's beautiful. I'm so in love with it. I think this is probably the best thing that I've ever done. The biggest thing I want to stress is that you need to seal your grout or it will be gross. A tile countertop is a sanitary and safe option to choose, and if it's not properly sealed, then it can get gross and dirty and attract all sorts of things. It can be hard to clean, all of that. So make sure you're sealing your grout. I didn't do this on camera because we do have to wait about 48 hours before we can actually seal it to let the grout fully set and dry. But that's a very, very important step I want to stress. Let's jump into the cost breakdown. And this is for everything that I actually used for the project. This will be excluding the DIY supplies, and I'll talk about that in a second. It also does not include the supplies I got for the eventual backsplash, like the square tiles and the spacers. I'm not going to include those for this project. They will be their own videos somewhere down the road. So the penny rounds in total, I bought 3 boxes of them. I didn't need 3 boxes of them. I probably could have done this project with 2 boxes and then a couple of extra sheets of penny rounds. But I am really glad that I bought all 3 boxes, because when it came to designing the strawberry countertop especially, I had already done a design. I had already cut out all of the bits and then realized that I really wanted to reconfigure the design, and it was much easier, although wasteful of some supplies, it was much easier to pull just a fresh sheet of penny rounds out of the new box than it was going to be to like piece in all of the empty spots. So the penny rounds cost me $119.70. The colored rounds cost $48.75, and that is with shipping. The green trim tiles cost $16.45. The bullnose tiles, which are the white ones around the edges, cost $39. The corner pieces was $1.77. The little trim tiles that I put around the edge of my sink were $7.99. The grout was $39. The trowel was $7.98. The tile color was $10.98. We bought MDF to build up one of the countertops so that the tiles wouldn't hit the drawer below it. That was $25. The caulk for around the sink was $14.98. The glue for building up the countertop was $7.99. Sandpaper was $11.76, and grout sealant, it was $7.96. That brings us to a grand total of $361.07 for everything that I used for the countertops. As you all know, I also did a DIY and failed, and the total cost for that, for the bonding primer, the spray paint, and the epoxy that we used for that total came to $55.31. Actually, let me correct myself, that number is wrong. The total for the failed DIY was actually about $65 because I had to buy 2 cookie sheets to epoxy things on, and that was $10. So obviously I should have just bought the colored tile rounds instead of trying to DIY, but I am glad that I did the DIY because I did still learn things. So the grand total for this entire project, including the failed DIY, was $426.38. I tried to calculate how much this might have cost to hire someone to do it, and just to see if it was worth it, especially with the hours that I put into it. And I couldn't really get an exact amount, but I think that a custom design like this around my area would cost between $1,500 to $2,500. Editing Kristina here to say I just did the search on my computer instead of my phone and found this source, which says that on the lower end it would be over $2,000, and on the higher end it could be closer to $4,000. So do with that what you will. So obviously to me it's worth it. It's worth it to put in the hours. It was worth it to do it all myself. I also just really enjoy this. Was one of the most fun projects I've ever done outside of grouting. I hated grouting. It hurt my hands, but this was probably one of my favorite projects that I've ever done. I'm really proud of it. I'm really happy with it. It turned out the way that I hoped it would. The countertop design itself, I would say, took a full day of planning, and then it was another day or 2 of cutting everything out, and then we had to wait for the colored tiles to arrive, and then it took about 3 days. So this was a full week of work to get these countertops done, and honestly we still have to wait before we can seal them. Tiling your countertops is a pretty forgiving project because you lay down the tile in the mortar and it's not set immediately, so you can move it around. I had several times, as you saw, where I had to remove the tile and reposition it because I got it wrong. It was not hard, but it took a lot of forethought and planning, and there are a lot of things you have to think about getting beforehand. You have to get mortar, you have to get grout, you have to get trim tiles, you have to get bullnose tiles, you have to get your main tiles, you have to think about whether you want to do color placement, you have to get tile sealant, you have to get sandpaper, you need caulk for around the sink. So there are a lot of moving parts to think about, and like the prep work is probably where it gets the hardest, because you do have to make sure you're doing everything the correct way so that it will last. I will be doing my backsplash in another video, probably sometime in the late winter or early next year, mainly because I'm kind of tired of doing larger renovation projects and I would really like to get into fall content. I am dying to get into fall content and to decorate my house for fall. But that is it. That was the project. I finally managed to do the tile countertop of my dreams and I'm so happy with it. Thank you for watching if you have gotten this far, and if you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe. As always, I hope that wherever you are feeling safe and loved, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!